All right, so we are continuing to talk about oneness as we have been doing all year long. Our theme for the year, oneness. And what a grand idea it is, as the reading suggested. It's the crux of the teaching, and it is. I like to start with spiritual principles, also known as What We Believe, written by Ernest Holmes. You can download a copy of this if you receive our newsletter. You can go to our website, download a copy of this, and I believe next week there will be copies to hand out to everybody, so make sure you come. But today, we are focusing on spiritual principle number 1. Simply, we believe in God. We believe in God. And since we believe in God, we believe in love. Because God is love. Spiritual principle number 2, we believe in the individualization of the Spirit in us, and that all people are individualizations of the one Spirit. I'm an individualization of Spirit, and so are you. Spiritual principle 11, we believe in our own soul, our own spirit, and our own destiny, for we understand that the life of all is God. And finally, spiritual principle number 3, we believe in the eternality and the immortality and the continuity of the individual soul, forever and ever expanding. We are forever becoming more and more of who we really and truly are, and nevertheless, that's what we believe. So, I've come to learn something about this teaching. This teaching will grow you up. And if you don't want to grow up, before I say another word, just tiptoe on out, you know what I mean? Because the teaching will grow you up if you stay long enough. And what I mean by that is if you take the principles into your life and you start to embody the principles, the principle of love, if you start to embody the principle of oneness, if you start to embody the principle of forgiveness, if you start to embody and embrace these principles, it'll grow you up. If you take time to establish a consistent practice, your own spiritual practice, sacred reading and meditation and prayer and contemplation and journaling, if you do these things, the teaching will grow you up. The teaching will grow you up. The teaching will shut you up. The teaching will fill you up. And the teaching will love you up. But you got to be in it. You know, many of us had the privilege to sit at our founding senior minister, Reverend Sheila. Many of us had the opportunity to sit at her knee. And she would fondly and oftentimes, as you hear us say, she would extend us the invitation to go deeper. Right? And so sometimes, though, we would be tripping. We would act like we didn't really know what she was talking about, you know? And so she would just simplify it on you. She would say, okay, you're going to have to pull up your big girl panties. You're going to have to pull up your big boy bloomers and get to it. Learn to embody the principle. You're going to have to pull up your panties and you're going to have to see where you have embodied these principles in your life, the principle of oneness, the principle of love, and where you have not. What she meant, as I said, is that she would she would say something like, okay, you've said what you needed to say about them. That's enough of the story. In other words, now let's talk about the principle, right? Now that you've proved to me that you know the principle forward and backwards, and you can state it eloquently, you know what I mean? You can state it in your sleep. Now let's see. Let's see who you are. Who do you say that you are? We've been talking about this month our words and how our words bond us. And so she would extend the invitation. Let's see what words you have in your garden. Let's see what's fruitful, what's there, so that you can get clear. You say you want peace. You say you want joy. You say you want love. You say you want abundance. Pull your panties up. Let's go. So we have to be very mindful then of what's getting in our way. We have to be very mindful. What's keeping us from loving? What's keeping us from peace? I wanted to read a little bit from the Science of Mind textbook, more about the power of our words and the power of our thought, since that is the only thing that we have to deal with. We have to take what is given. Ernest Holmes says you don't take anything out of it, use what's there. We know what's there for us to use is to take in a deep dive into delving into looking into our thoughts, our ideas. So here's what Ernest Holmes says. In the Science of Mind textbook, I'm on page 140. He says, our beliefs and our deep-seated convictions inevitably outpicture and reflect themselves in our experience and environment, both in the physical condition of the body and in the larger world of our affairs. What we outwardly are and what we are to become depends upon what we are thinking. For this is the way we are using the creative power. And then on page 146 and 147, he says, through spiritual discernment, we see that we have within us a power which is greater than anything we shall ever contact. A power that can overcome every obstacle in every experience and set us safe, satisfied, and at peace, healed and prosperous in a new light and a new life. If God be for us, who can be against us? Further, he says, just so far as we depend upon any condition, past, present, or future, we are creating chaos. Because we are then dealing with conditions, the effects, and not with the causes. Could we but comprehend the fact that there is a power that makes things directly out of itself by simply becoming the thing it makes, could we but grasp this greatest truth about life and realize that we are dealing with a principle, scientifically correct and eternally present, we could accomplish whatever it is possible for us to conceive, for life externalizes at the level of our thought. Finally, from this reading, he says, do we desire to live in a world, people with friends who love us, surrounded by things beautiful and pleasing? Do you? There is but one way, and this way is as certain as the sun shines. In all capital letters, he says, daily we must control all thought that denies the real, affirm the divine presence within us. Then, as the mist disappears before the sun, so shall adversity melt before the shining radiance of our exalted thought. Simply, what he is suggesting is that if we can behold the idea that we have some power that is within us, that stems from our ideas and our words. We would be taking hold of a power that can change the conditions in our life. It's hard to believe. Words? My word? It's hard to believe. But if we can get that, he's suggesting we have what we need. Daily, we must control our thought that denies the real and affirm the divine presence within us. We are dealing with a principle that acts upon our words. It acts upon my words, and it acts upon your words. So, I gave you that foundation so that I can talk about what I really want to talk about. The last 2 weeks, we have been exploring the idea that our words bond us to the infinite. Our words bond us to or connect us to God's or the universe's high and holy ideas, and soon these high and holy ideas become the words of our mouth, become the meditation of our mind. Soon. But just as our words bond us to the infinite, it is also our words that bonds us to each other. It is also our words that bond us to another. Our thoughts and our ideas. It is these words, these high and these holy ideas, that once we embrace them is the thing that will set us free. So, if it is my word and my idea that bonds me to you and you to me, we ought to be taking some time to consider the ideas that we're bringing into our relationships. It is the month of love, so we might as well talk about relationships. It is our word that bonds us in our relationships. What thoughts are you bringing into your relationships? What ideas are you bringing into your relationships? When you don't check what thoughts and what ideas you're bringing into your relationships, remember, we're dealing with a principle. If it's a thought or an idea that you really don't want to bring into your relationships, you're just going to continue to have more of it. We're dealing with a principle, not a person. So, when you don't question, take time to pause and see what thoughts and what ideas you're bringing into your relationships. You're left questioning. You're left questioning the other. You got questions for another. You have questions about the other. If you got questions about another, what they did, what they didn't do, you don't understand the principle. It is your word and my word that brings forth the bounty and the beauty. What am I trying to say to you here? We got to set our relationships right. It's you and it's me. It is not them. You have to be clear about what you are bringing into the relationship. You have to be clear whether or not you think the relationship can become something greater than it is. You have to decide within yourself whether the relationship can even be. It's you and it's me. We're dealing with a principle. So when we have then embodied the essence, the true essence of love, I told you this teaching will grow you up. When you have embodied the true essence of oneness, the true essence of forgiveness, you got to grow up. You got to make some choices. You got to plant some new seeds in your garden. You got to become available to the infinite ideas to make the seemingly impossible become possible. We engage and let our relationships get to a point too many times in my life and in our life that I hear from others, the relationships that are not working. Well, specifically, as it relates to our relationships, it is our thoughts about love. The Bible says that we should love our neighbor as we love ourselves. Let me ask you, who is your neighbor? Right. Who is your neighbor? Joel Goldsmith, in Practicing the Presence, on page 67, he says this: let us understand that anything of which we can become aware of is our neighbor. Let us understand, let me give it to you like this. Let us understand any ideas that we are holding in our mind about ourselves is our neighbor. Any ideas that we are holding in our mind about another is our neighbor. It'll grow you up. Let us understand that anything of which we become aware of is a neighbor, whether it appears as person, place, or thing. Every idea in consciousness is a neighbor. We can love that neighbor as we see it, or possessing no, we can love it or see it possessing no power except that which comes from God. When we see God as the cause and our neighbor as that which is in front, which is in and of God, then we are loving our neighbor, whether that neighbor appears as friend, relative, enemy, animal, flower, or stone. In such loving, which understands all neighbors to be of God, derived of God's substance, we find that every idea in consciousness takes its rightful place. Those neighbors who are a part of our experience find their way to us, and those who are not are removed. Let us resolve loving our neighbor into a spiritual activity, beholding love as the substance of all that is, no matter what the form may be. As we rise above our humanhood to a higher dimension of life in which we understand our neighbor to be pure spiritual being, God-governed, neither good nor bad, then we are truly loving. Love is the law of God. And when we are in tune with divine love, loving whether it be friend or enemy, then love is a gentle thing bringing peace. But it is gentle only while we are in tune with it. It's like electricity. You can use it for good or you can use it for harm. You can use it for good or you can use it for bad. Our ideas. Ernest Holmes says that love can heal our relationships if we will let it, by cultivating within us the love that is in us, the latent potential of love, loving in a way that you've never loved before. When you take responsibility, that which is latent within you can express. See, you don't even know you can love that way. You don't even know that you have it in you to forgive. You don't even know the love that is within you. But when we take responsibility, what's in us that's been sleeping is waking up. We got to take responsibility for our relationships. James Baldwin says love does not begin and end in the way we seem to think that it does. Love is a battle. Love is a war. Love is growing up. Pull them up. Love is not a battle and a war with another. Love is a battle and a war with ourselves. Our lesser ideas about another. Our lesser ideas about them. It is love that awakens the potential in us. This is very important. Because either you'll be driven by crisis in your life or you'll be spiritually led. Either you'll let the relationship get so bad and then one thing happens and you'll blow up, right? Or you'll let the relationship go and go and go and you won't say anything and you allow it to happen and you won't do anything. You're not meditating. You're not in prayer. Let me break it down for you. You haven't prayed. You ain't thinking no godly ideas, and then you take it out on somebody else. No. Pull them up. Pull them up. In the teaching, you see, we can't just say that we've changed. We've got to prove it. We've got to prove it. Not to me, to yourself. You got to prove and demonstrate peace to yourself. Not to me. Not to them, but to yourself. To yourself. You know, we set the limits. We see people, we see forms, everything they didn't do, what they said, but the teaching offers us an opportunity to see beyond the form. That's what metaphysics is. To see beyond the form, to see beyond what they said, to go beyond what they did, to go beyond what they didn't do, and get settled. Get aligned with the spiritual truths. I am one with spirit. Get in line with the spiritual idea of love and let it waken something up in you. We've got to set our relationships right. It's a relationship. I heard somebody explain it like this. It's a ship. It's moving. It's not steady. If it's in the water, when the waves come, our relations get a little shaky. It's a relationship. We're not trying to keep it smooth. Sometimes, you know what I mean, they're going to say something. And it's all right. They're going to do something. You know what I mean? But we're not trying to get our relationships right out there, as I said. We're trying to get our relationships right in here. This is really the only thing I'm really wanting you to get this morning, to encourage you that you have within you such a power that if you would take time to embody the principles, if you would take time to develop a constant practice, that all your relationships would change, that your relationship with yourself would change, and certainly your relationship with another would change. You see, this is the thing. We get so caught up in the effects. You know, we started to say things like, you know, well, why I got to be the one? Why I got to be the one to make this right? You know what I mean? And in our intimate relationships, we got this going on. Is she the one? You know what I mean? Is he the one? No, you the one. You the one. You want love? You the one. Ain't no is she the one? Is he the one? Why I got to be the one? You the one. You here. You embodying these ideas. You're open to them. You are the one. Listen, I know it's hard. I know it's hard. Because I got to tell myself all the time, Twana, you the one. Yeah, she acting crazy. But I'm the one. And you the one. It's time that we awaken what's latent within us. It's time that we demonstrate it. And you might need some help sorting through your thoughts and your ideas. You might need some help getting clear about your words and the ideas that you're bringing into the relationship. We have to be conscious and intentional about every relationship. Every relationship. There's not one relationship that we can chance, that we can give over to chance. No, we know what we are working with. We are dealing with a principle. No longer can we question others. Anytime you're questioning, you don't understand the principle. You don't understand the principle. Let's pray. Oh, let us take this opportunity just to turn within, to become aware of that which is ever present and available to us in all of its glory and all of its goodness, nothing held back and everything already given to you and to me. Let us in this moment unite with it in word, taking it so deep within ourselves where our very word, the very thought of love, our very word, the very word of oneness, the very thought, the very idea that our relationships can be something more than it is. The words that we are conscious and intentional, let it live in us in such a way that we are conscious and we are intentional, that we take time to become aware of the words that are flowing through us. Let us be particular about the words that we bring into our relationships. Let us speak high and holy ideas about ourselves, and let us know here and now that the very words that we speak of ourselves, that it is true for the other. For the same God that is in me is in the other. The infinite and the infinite love that is seeking to express through me, the infinite love that is seek to be known by me, this love that is transformative, it is the same love in the other. Oh, let us declare and decree together then that this day that our eyes be made clearly so that we can see the goodness in the other, so that we can see what's possible in our relationships, so that we can awaken the potential within us and take responsibility for our own relationships. I affirm for me as I affirm for you, no more questioning another, no more uncertainty and unsure about what the other is doing. Let me turn my attention and my focus on me. Let me realize that I'm dealing with a principle that is always responding to my word. And so when I say peace in my relationships, I mean it. When I say joy is mine and in my relationship, I mean it. When I say that there's room for understanding and not to be misunderstood, I mean it. Let us stand on something today. Let us stand on something today. Let us stand on principle today. Let us be bold out in this world. Let us be the ones who bring peace. Let us be the ones who declare joy. Let us ones who decree that everything is possible. That it doesn't have to be the way that it was yesterday. It ain't got to remain that way. Let us declare and decree that the God in me recognizes the God in you. Oh, I know that we all are grown-ups, big girls and big boys. It is good and I give thanks for it. I give thanks for this moment of clarity, this moment of understanding. I give thanks for the call that is put upon me so that I can express this love that is in me. I give thanks that life is calling me to be something more. I give thanks to know that there's something greater in you as there is something greater in me. There's something greater in all of us. It's true, and I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for it. Let us lift our voices and sing. Let us lift our voices and declare. My relationships are rich and meaningful, bountiful and plentiful. Let us in this moment then just simply be moved to gathering the words that have been spoken, the songs that have been sang, the glances that have happened, the love that is expressed in here, knowing that it is more than enough, that we are led spiritually in all of our relationships. We just let these words go. We let them be. Together we come together in agreement by saying, and so it is. As we journey on throughout our weeks, it is upon each of us to take responsibility for our relationships. Quit asking questions. You the one. Pull them up. Pull them up. So it is.